Yes, well, first of all, hello everyone. It's wonderful to be here. Atticus is very, very respected across Westminster and Whitehall, and I was really pleased to accept the invitation to this event. You rightly said that I've been skills minister previously, and then Rishi appointed me, I would say, as part of his net zero agenda, being a recycled minister. But my passion has been, since I've been in politics, I got elected in 2010, has been about apprenticeships and skills. And my first ever speech in Parliament was about trying to get more schools to encourage more students to go and do apprenticeships and go to further educational colleges or go to do vocational and technical learning. Because in the past, the system was based on university, when it should have been based on skills. I should say I am universities minister as well, and I love universities. But my priorities are very, very simple. What I've tried to do since I've been appointed in the job, and it's come to three words: skills, jobs, and social justice. So what I mean by skills is trying to ensure that we provide people with the skills they need to get the jobs they need for the future, but also meet our country's skills deficits. And as you know, we have significant skills deficits in certain areas, particularly in STEM, in some STEM subjects. Skills lead to jobs, and of course, they are also what I call a ladder of opportunity for the most disadvantaged. So that's what I mean by social justice, is that we have 9 million adults, for example, who have poor literacy and numeracy. And my whole aim is to be trying to ensure that those people from the most disadvantaged backgrounds can climb up that ladder. And we have what I call a ladder of opportunity in the department. And it's not just a slogan. Many of you will heard me use this phrase. And each rung and pillar has very detailed policy behind it. And if I can just say what that ladder means and what it is in practice. Each side of the ladder, of course, has two pillars. One is about opportunities and social justice. The other side is about strengthening FE and HE. The first rung of the ladder is careers. Now, you can have all the policy in the world, you can have all the money in the world, but unless you transform careers advice in our country, you won't change the system to a skills-based education system that we want to do. And as I mentioned, my first ever speech was about this very subject. And what we've tried to do over the past 2 years is to create a careers-based system that encourages people into skills. And we've kind of merged all the different websites that there were, all the information systems, into a skills for careers website. We have a apprenticeship and skills knowledge network going over to thousands of schools. Thus far, in the last a year or so alone, they've had about 600,000 interactions with students promoting apprenticeship, promoting skills, holding apprenticeship fairs. We've toughened up the legislation, so schools now have to make sure that they invite apprentices or technical organisations into the schools. And Ofsted now has tougher measures, and I hope they'll be tougher soon. And I had a meeting with the chair of Ofsted, and we've done a lot with the adult career service, the national career service as well, to try and encourage and make sure that we get more people to do skills offerings. The second rung of that ladder is quality qualifications. Now, what that means is, in the past, even if you just go back to apprenticeships, when I was growing up, first of all, there weren't that many on offer. Secondly, they were concentrated on traditional trades and crafts, always a good thing, but an apprenticeship in those days, pre-2010, could be just a few months. Now, every single apprenticeship standard is designed by employers with the help of the Institute for Apprenticeship and Technical Education. The aim being, of course, if the employers design the qualification, those who do them are more likely to get jobs. We have over 690 different apprenticeship standards in everything from aeronautical to zoology, with healthcare, with media, with digital, with policing, and much more besides in between. And that has been very, very important. Apprenticeship has to be a minimum of a year now, and they're often a year, 2, 3 years, and they go all the way up from level 3 right to level 7. And we introduced degree apprenticeships in 2014. We've had well over 200,000 since that time. I describe degree apprenticeships as my two favorite words in the English language, because they enable social mobility. They ensure that students who do them get jobs, because we know that 90% of all apprentices who complete their apprenticeship, they get a good job in the usually in the business that has employed them, and you still get a university experience. It's a win-win in so many ways. We've also redesigned our other qualifications. We have T levels, prestigious T levels. Thousands of students are doing them, again designed by employers. Higher technical qualifications designed by employers, so quality qualifications. The third rung, of course, is championing apprenticeships and skills in the ways that I've described. The fourth rung is the lifelong learning. And we have introduced something revolutionary. I spent 6 months of my life doing this last year, and that is something called the lifelong learning entitlement. Every single adult will be able to borrow up to £37,000. They will be able to, instead of having to do a 3-year course at a university, will be able to do level 4, level 5, level 6, and they'll be able to do short courses or modules of courses at a time of their choosing. So what that means is, let's say somebody might want to be a social worker. They might decide at their local FE college to do a course in child psychology for a few months. And then they may decide that's enough, or 6 months later they will be able to then say, okay, I want to do a course of adult psychology, but at Queen Mary University. And they'll be able to move from institution to institution, transferring and building up credits along the way. And the beauty of this system, instead of education being just a place you go to, education becomes a train journey, adult education. What that means is that you can choose your learning at a time that is convenient to you, and you get on and off at different stations on the way, albeit with an end destination for that train. And alongside that, we've got adult learning for jobs, boot camps that are very successful. We spent £500 million on this. Everyone who does it, 16-week course, you have them in a range of subjects from digital to HGV. And people can get jobs when they finish those. They're guaranteed a job interview. Many of them do get jobs. We've got our free level 3 courses for those who haven't got level 3, who are on low incomes as well. And of course, the final rung of that ladder is about job security and prosperity. And all those different rungs that leads to that ladder. So when you ask me what my priorities have been, it is to build policy around that ladder of opportunity and to make sure that as many people take up those opportunities. And we build a skills-based system, whether it's through higher education or all our other educational offerings.
Well, thank you very much, Robert. I think that's a good place to start in terms of the summary. I think I'll pick up on one thing you just said about the lifelong learning entitlement, which I think will be very, very helpful, especially people who want to try and start a second career or move on to something else for whatever reason. Returnships is something that you've also thought about in terms of those over 50 and how you get back into the workforce. It was interesting that the first person you met and you came in the room just happened to be the emissary from the Swiss embassy. You know, they have a slightly different approach over there. What would be the incentivization you would offer to business to, in addition to providing a training model for people to get back into the workplace? If I have an 18-year-old, a 21-year-old, or a 25-year-old, or someone who's over 50, I know that I might get 20 or 25 years out of this person, but maybe not out of this. Do you think there is a financial tax incentive that can be offered to business?
Well, it's very interesting. It's not Switzerland, but I was speaking to the German Chamber of Commerce in Frankfurt a couple of years ago, and they have loads of students there on work experience from 14 years old, and it's across Germany. They have passionate about vocational systems. Many students go and do vocational learning, and I said to them, why do you do this? Why is it you start people from the age of 14 and give them work experience? Is it financial? And he said, what do you mean, why do we do this? Almost getting angry with me. He said, it's our duty. It's because we're bringing the pipeline through the next generation. We can identify those who want jobs. It's not always about money. And we need to change the culture, just as the culture in Switzerland is hugely vocational, in Germany and Austria. And we're doing some of that. Having said that, we've got the levy. I know that's not an incentive, but it has changed the culture in the way that big businesses employ apprentices, and they have directors of apprenticeships on their boards now in a way that they wouldn't have done. The lifelong learning entitlement will empower individuals to choose the training and retraining that they need. In terms of specific financial incentives, I have my own ideas about that, but of course I'm a minister, and I prefer to do these things behind the behind the scenes with the Treasury. I think they've announced some, we've just had another package only last week of £60 million to try and incentivize. We've removed co-investment for small businesses if they're going to hire someone from 16 to 21 for all small businesses. That's a big step forward. That's a financial incentive for small businesses as well. But as a minister, I think I will prefer to keep this kind of lobbying I do private in terms of financial incentives with the Treasury.
Well, you've scuppered my next question, because I know that you are a committed advocate and lobbyist, or have been over.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. If you want to find out what I've said about these things, it's quite easy to find out in just do a Google search instead. But that was when I was the chair of the select committee. So.
Hassard is your friend, absolutely. Well, I note that you also had 20 bullet points on the gov.uk website in terms of areas of responsibility, which is quite a plethora, including the overall strategy for post-16 education, education strategy, T levels, qualification review, further education, adult education initiatives, ensuring quality and accountability in higher education. I would say that's quite a lot. Obviously, DfE is very, very well funded across the government estate. Would you say that there is a shortfall in funding across education, specifically for your area at all?
Absolutely not. Yes, it's true. I'm doing previously I had a separate higher education minister, and I'm doing skills and higher education. That's a massive brief. But there are advantages as well, because I want to inject more skills into the higher education system. We've got some brilliant vocational universities. We now have degree apprenticeships. We now have universities who take students doing T levels, and more doing that. So you're able to make sure the policy is consistent. What was just remind me of the part of your question again?
Whether the DfE outside of the department.
Oh, it's the money. Well, we're spending 2.7 billion pounds on apprenticeships by 2025. I would love it to be 27 billion, 2.7 billion. We've just increasing the skills budget separately by 3.8 billion. We've just had 60 million new money given to us by the Treasury to spend on apprenticeships and co-investment, and we had 50 million extra on apprenticeships in the autumn statement last year to spend on key STEM apprenticeships. So in very tight financial constraints with huge challenges facing the economy, I think that we're doing, obviously there'll always be a need for more, always fight for more, but I think we've had a good chunk of money given to us to do the things that we need to do.
Fair enough. We are in an election year, so here you can be partisan. So Sina Malhotra, your counterpart on the other side, would probably advocate for Skills England. She's talked about that further devolution model, FE colleges to become technical colleges, supporting further expansion of growth levy or reform of the apprenticeship levy. Do you think there is a red blue sea between you and Labour in this election?
So look, I get on really well with Sina Malhotra, and I'm not a confrontational politician. And I was very proud, as I mentioned, to bring the lifelong learning entitlement bill through Parliament. And to their credit, Labour, obviously they had their own amendments, but they didn't oppose the substance of the bill, and that they could have done. But first of all, on the technical colleges, well, we already have created technical colleges. We've got 21 institutes of technology all around the country, £300 million investment, and I think that is a really good thing. Creating another Quango, I don't see the need for it. We've already devolved adult education to the mayoral authorities, or a substantial chunk of adult education to the mayoral authorities. We have the local skills improvement plans now that are plans decided by the local community that they then put forward their ideas of how much funding they need. We then respond, but that's a local grassroots driven skills plan. So I don't necessarily think that's necessarily devolution. It just seems to me creating a Quango. We've got plenty of them. The one thing which I have a real problem with what they're saying, and I'm not being partisan, is I am an absolute hardcore believer in the apprenticeship levy. It's a Ron Seal levy. It does what it says on the tin. And what I want to do is build an apprenticeship nation. I want to have the culture that we see in, as I said, in Switzerland, Germany, and Scandinavian countries about apprenticeships and vocational education. And the moment you dilute it, and I get it that some businesses say, well, why can't we use it to pay for skills? But the moment you dilute it, you have no, you will massively slash the number of apprenticeships because people will do spends on skills rather than apprenticeships. And then you could the potential for gaming of the system will be huge. We've got the lifelong learning entitlement. We're spending billions and billions of pounds on different skills programs, from boot camps to free level 3 courses to higher technical qualifications. So I don't understand why that they want to do this. Because I want to build an apprenticeship nation. We'll go back to the bad old days of the past where apprenticeships were secondary, and I personally think that is the one thing of all their policies that I think they really need to go back to the drawing board on. You asked me, and I'm not saying that to be partisan. I genuinely believe that I fought for the apprenticeship levy. Doesn't mean it can't be improved. And only last week, the government said we went from 25% to 50%. The amount of investment that companies can use 50% of their levy now to use it for small businesses. So we're looking at changes. We're not immovable, but the principle of the apprenticeship levy is incredibly important.
Last one from me, and then we'll open it up.
I noticed you smiling while I was talking. I don't know whether that meant you disagreed or agreed, but
possibly comment.
Yeah.
The last one, and then we'll open it up. So here is at Atticus, we always tell clients and prospects in terms of working backcasting from where you want to be and how you get there. So digital, green transition, these are going to be two very vital areas to the lifeblood of our economy over generations. What else do we need to do as a government, as a country, to make sure we get there?
Well, this is huge because I think there are two big challenges coming for skills down the line. One is, of course, AI and the fourth industrial revolution. And I've read lots of books about this and spoken to academics, and I think it's going to be huge, and it's changing all the time. We've got ChatGPT, it's very early days, but even every few months it's mutating, and I often play on these things just to see, like ask it to write me a speech or whatever to see what it comes up with. And there's huge changes. Almost every single job will be affected by AI, almost every single job, whether you're a McDonald's worker or whether you're an accountant. It may bring opportunities. I went to see a bank in the city. They said they were getting rid of all their accountants because it could be done by AI, but they then were redeploying them and train them with our skills programs in cybersecurity, because that is going to be one of the big skills things that we are going to need. So I don't yet have all the answers to this on AI, but I think a huge amount of work is going on by Michelle Donovan and in the Department of Education and other departments to look at the impact. Will impact universities just as much. There's big challenges coming to universities as well. On green skills, again, that is a huge challenge. A change is coming. I mean, in my own area of Harlow, we had an advanced manufacturing centre for cars. That's now an advanced manufacturing centre for electric vehicles. We had a centre for plumbing. That now is a centre for renewable boilers and fitters, and teaching students the new skills. And I've seen that happen all over the country. I saw it in South London College, where our local skills improvement fund, they asked for funding for. So there are lots of skills programs, whether it's in the colleges, whether it's through the boot camps. There are many examples of green boot camps. We've got many sort of STEM stroke green related apprenticeships, but we also have a number of land colleges that, because we often think of green skills as just in terms of retrofitting or other areas, but there's also green skills in terms of rewilding, food sustainability, agriculture. And I recently did a speech at the Land College conference where we were talking about how they could be part of the green skills. There's a lot of cross-government work, I have to say, on joint government committees in terms of green skills. So in all our different programs, whether it's the T levels, the apprenticeships, the hard technical qualifications, the boot camps, the free level 3 courses, there are a lot of green programs green related programs that people can take up.
Now, I'll give you all credit here, Robert. I think there is a lot of opportunity there and programs available to people. It's all about communication. It's a multifaceted solution that is required from the education sector and from business to make sure people that is there and available for people to avail. So with that, we'll open it up to the floor. If I call on you, if you could announce yourself and who you are and who you work with, please. Good question. Right here.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Atherley from the British Poultry Council. So we're the trade association for poultry meat producers in the UK, producing around half the meat that the UK eats. You picked up on my point about cross-government collaboration. I think that's a really important piece for us in the egg and food businesses. So I was going to ask kind of what conversations you had with maybe some of your peers, including Minister Spencer, about how we can tap into some of the opportunities and overcome some of the challenges that the egg and food businesses are having. And secondly, how would you suggest some of my members and other businesses provide you with feedback on some of the schemes that are in place now, and provide some thoughts on how they might be able to be improved in the future?
Yeah, so thank you for your question. That's an important one. So I talk to Mark Spencer regularly and about land colleges, particularly because we both cover, in fact, totally separate. We wrote to the land colleges about mental health recently because that's a huge issue going on both at colleges and at universities, sadly. So we do have collaboration as the Green Skills body that different ministers are on that talks about these issues. In terms of getting information and advice to us, just contact the department. I'd be very happy to engage officials, relevant officials, with you or myself, depending on what it is. But it would be good to know what the kind of programs that you're doing already.
This gentleman.
Luke from St. Robert, thanks for your time this morning. I think we've been touched upon, but obviously Labour have a few ideas for the general election beyond, whether it's the Skills England or reforming the levy. I just wondered what the kind of Conservative priorities would be. I mean, it's all focused on delivery, so whether it's kind of TR or lifelong learning entitlement, kind of making sure that that growth continues, or is there anything else that?
Yeah. So first of all, I've been to see Sainsbury's, as you know, and I loved it, meeting apprentices in my own constituency, and life-changing for those apprentices in all walks of life. So thank you for supporting apprenticeships as a company. Part of it is delivery, absolutely, because we want to make sure the apprenticeship program. We want to make sure we want to deliver. We want to get the starts up, and particularly achievements up. So over the past year, achievements have gone up quite significantly, thank goodness, because that's what counts. But we also want to improve the starts. Compared to this time last year, apprentice starts are up by about 3%. Of course, they went down for a short time, partly because of the economic challenges, COVID, and so on, and also because we introduced new qualifications. So we want to make sure we deliver these skills. But the lifelong learning entitlement comes through from 2025, so that's huge. The Institutes of Technology, which are going to revolutionise tertiary education, the 20 we've got around the country, we've opened most of them, but they will be huge places in the future, centres of excellence for advanced skills, HDQs, degree apprenticeships, for example. The other big thing, of course, is the Advanced British Standard, and I didn't talk about that in my remarks. It partly covers my brief, partly Damien Hines and the Secretary of State. But I have always wanted us to do a system like this. The Advanced British Standard marries technical education and vocational education with academic education, because we've had an artificial divide in this country, whether either you do knowledge or you do skills, and somehow in the past those who did skills were thought somehow lesser than people who did. It really annoyed me. And the skills sector was called the Cinderella sector, and I said, well, remember, Cinderella became a member of the royal family, and we need to banish the two ugly sisters of snobbery and under-resourcing, which we have done. And that's going to marry that together, because people will be able to mix and match T levels with academic education if they want to. So I think that is a huge reform. I went to Kent to see a version of the ABS, which was the International Baccalaureate, and the students were doing very well. They had incredible outcomes, going to great universities, going to do great apprenticeships. But I really felt that system was the right one. And the ABS is an advanced version of the two different versions of the IB. So I think that is people, unfortunately, the way it's been reported, just that people want, everyone wants, the Prime Minister wants everyone to learn maths to 18. It isn't. That's much more than that. It's marrying technical vocation with academic. And I think once it's through, it will have absolutely profound changes about the way we see vocational education in our country.
Thank you, Robert. Just a reminder for those online, if you submit your question in the chat and Q&A box, we'll ask it to Robert. Matilda, come in.
Great, thank you. It's really good to hear that net zero is one of the skills priorities. I work at the Design Council, which is the UK Institute of Design. We recently just released some research that shows 73% of designers expect the demand for green environmental design skills to grow in the next 3 years, but only 43% feel equipped to meet that sort of increase in green design. And we also looked at some LinkedIn research which shows the demand for sustainable design skills is growing faster than the demand for energy-related skills like retrofit. So I'm interested to hear how the government is approaching the role of the creative industries in meeting net zero green skills targets.
Yeah, so I think I talked about the net zero before, if you were happy with that. But on the creative skills, again, in every area, we have introduced creative skills, qualifications related to creative skills designed by the employers, whether it's the T levels, whether it is the higher technical qualifications, whether it is the huge different apprenticeship offerings there are. And the beauty of the current system is that nothing stays static. So let's say you and the whole of the creative industry come along and say, actually, you're missing X, Y, and Z, and we really need this area. You band together with a number of bodies, whether it's businesses, trade bodies, and you go to the Institute of Apprenticeship and Technical Education, you make the case that you say, well, we need a new qualification because we don't think, and that happens. New qualifications are being built, and that is the beauty of the system because it's employer-led. But if you look at everywhere across, in every single field, there are numerous different offerings related to the creative industries.
Hi, my name is Diana Neal. I'm the council's representative. You mentioned devolution, and it sounded as though it's kind of done. I know we've got the trailblazers with branch management and the Westminster authorities, but I just wondered if you thought that there was a possibility of doing more, because you talked about jobs and skills, and we're really keen to join up the employment and skills systems more locally at a local level. And frankly, I think we need more sort of devolution to enable us to do that and to also flex things so that it makes sense for the different and diverse communities.
Yeah, so thank you. I absolutely did not say it was done. What I was just saying is a lot has happened. So, we have devolved adult skills to all the male combined authorities, a significant chunk of adult skills. And that's a big thing. I'm sure I can't speak for policy, but that's the direction of travel. So that's very clear. But what I was trying to say, and then separate to that, you have our new local skills improvement plans. So they are not devised by me or the officials in DFE. They are, as you know, local communities. You will have designed your own one. And as I said, I went to South London College because they had got together with the Chambers of Commerce, said what X, Y, and Z, these were the skills needs on our areas. And then the government responded with the local skills improvement fund. But what I was making a wider point that it's not always about devolving power to bodies. I also believe in devolving power to individuals. That probably makes me a conservative, but and I think the LLE will be devolving power to individuals in a way like never before. We're devolving power to individuals to get on that ladder with all the different skills choices I've tried to set out. But the lifelong learning entitlement for adults, for people to be able to train and retrain at the time of their choosing, from levels 4 to level 6, once that comes through, will be a huge change. And I think will massively change the way people go to university as well. Because will they go there for 3 years if they could do short courses or modules of courses? Who knows? Some may do. But I think that will be a change. So I also believe in devolving power to people, individuals. And I think that will be one part of it as well.
Hi, I'm Carly asking my immigration question. So in our industry, we have a huge number of skills gap and apprenticeships can really support that. I think with the announcements made last week with the increase in the loan transfer, but also from that support, but with the underspending the apprenticeship levy anyway, what are your thoughts on employers being able to perhaps use some of that spend or salaries on apprentices?
Yeah.
So I think that will really support our industry.
Yeah, so that's a very important question. It comes up again and again, and I'm mystified by this underspend because we spend 98%, if not close to 99%, of the apprenticeship budget that we're given by the Treasury raised from the levy. And so, and of course, by the way, part of that levy money goes to the devolved authorities, to Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales. Quite a big chunk of it. So we don't have that money floating around. And when there is money, you've seen what the Chancellor's done, the 60 million last week, the 50 million, 60 million on apprenticeships last week and 50 million on apprenticeships at the autumn statement. In terms of your wider question about these salaries, I understand the argument. I get it, but if I could challenge you back, I think you need skin. Companies should have skin in the game, and I think it's a wonderful thing to have an apprentice. That apprentice, most likely, all the surveys show they're going to be more loyal to you than often lots of other different people who come into a company from other schemes, and will most likely stay for longer. So, given that we're now paying the complete training costs, or the taxpayer is, from 16 to 21. I don't think that it's unreasonable to say the companies need skin in the game. They need to pay the apprentice wage. For the first year, they pay the apprenticeship minimum wage. I appreciate that has gone up, and then it becomes the living wage, as you know, in essence. Although most companies actually pay more, much more. But that's how I hope you don't mind, but I really believe that's how I would respond to you on that question. Yeah.
Just here.
Hi, Rachel Raby from the Confederation of Paper Industries. Just to build on that, around we have a lot of conversations around companies being able to use their levy a bit more flexibly. The example given, we have to use occupational standards that aren't necessarily directly occupationally to the roles that our companies want to train apprentices on, and they're having to top up quite a lot of funding to support contextualisation and making sure that the content in an apprenticeship programme is right. So our members always ask if there could be consideration of qualifications coming back in that are able to contextualise rather than just using quite blunt knowledge, skill and behaviour statements. And then when it comes to the assessment of it, there are real concerns with some changes come out last week from the Institute around changing assessment within assessment plans to minimising methods, not having to assess every KSB in standards moving forward. And there is concerns that the quality of that assessment, which could lead to the quality of highly trained individuals, is at risk because things are being squeezed.
So are you saying that on the assessment, you're saying because it's being simplified, it might be squeezed? Is that what you're saying?
So there is a rule change that only 2 assessment methods can be used in an assessment plan, but that also not every KSB has to be assessed at endpoint assessment.
But most of the businesses ask for less. You're saying you want the full Monty of it, is that right? Or am I misunderstanding?
I find it really hard to understand how a company would not want every knowledge and skill behaviour assessed at some point. Okay. So on the standards, let me just take that. All our standards are employer led, as you know. So if you feel that there isn't a standard for your industry that does what you need, there is nothing to stop you and other in your industry coming together, as you know, working with the Institute of Apprenticeships and Technical Education to develop a standard that's specific to your industry. And that is possible. It happens all the time. It takes a bit longer than I'd like, but it does happen. And I'm very happy to support that with you. But I do think the crucial thing is these standards are predominantly designed by employers and employer bodies. They're not designed by me and the DFE. On the assessment issue, I've always had the opposite, by the way. So it's really interesting to say that the assessment is too burdensome and too many performance indicators. That's why I'm so kind of interested by your question. It's very thoughtful. Look, I think the assessment process is a little bit unwieldy, and I do get a lot of complaints as I go around about the assessment system. But let me take it back.
to the Institute. Again, this is done by the Institute of Apprenticeships, arm length from the ministers. And let me take it back and go through it with them. And if you want to write to the department as well, it would be helpful if you could explain exactly in the way that you've done so today, so I can just look at it and I can take it forward with IFATE.
Yeah.
But it's a really interesting question. Thank you.
Right in the back, please.
Sarah from the Liberal Minister, very much. Is there any thinking going on as you design all of these initiatives around the underperformance that we're seeing year on year, and in particular that academic achievement goals? Are we addressing them in any deliberate way, or is there any intentionality around gendering some of the outreach to the students themselves and programs to get more boys turning up and
Yeah. So it's very interesting that, because when I was select committee chair, I focused on white working class boys and girls on free school meals who underperform compared to every single other ethnic group other than a Roma Gypsy, and even at university. So you're absolutely right to raise it. What I can't speak for what Damien is doing in schools, but I can speak for the careers. And I mentioned that the first rung of the ladder being careers, and it's crucial because what we're trying to do is we're getting I mentioned the Apprentice Skills and Knowledge Network. We've also got the Careers Enterprise Company. That's in a credible organisation in 90% of secondary schools now have a careers hub. Most of those schools are going up now, what's called Gatsby recommendations. And if you imagine the 10 commandments of employment and careers, that's a bit like the Gatsby, but most of them are improving. And wherever they improve in terms of the Gatsby recommendations, you have more outcomes for those students facing disadvantages, whether it's mental health or others. So the answer to this, in my view, is careers. And a lot of work is going to try and support students with difficulties. And Careers Enterprise Company do a huge amount of work with children with learning difficulties or special educational needs as well. I should say also, sorry, we started a pilot scheme as well for apprentices who have disabilities, so that they can get the mentoring to encourage them to do an apprenticeship. And that started off at the beginning of the year. So we hope to see how that takes off and hopefully roll it out more fully.
Thank you. Yes. Hi, Pete Nielsen from Newcastle. And thank you for your sustained advocacy for apprenticeships over the years. But at Newcastle, we see a significant demand for apprenticeship opportunities coming, but we also know that most employers in the UK won't improve. So my question, I suppose, is what more can the apprenticeship sector do? And is there any more for the UK government to do to create those opportunities to meet that demand? Because apprenticeships are popular, we're seeing that, they're becoming increasingly popular, they will do, you're projecting them to over the next few years, up to 2030. What more can be done to make sure that demand meets the demand?
Well, I'll answer your question in two ways, but the first thing is my dream one day is that UCAS will be called the University College Apprenticeship and Skills Service, as you probably know. One of my first meetings when I was reappointed in November 22, I had a meeting with your former director of UCAS, brilliant lady Claire, and I said, will you do UCAS for apprenticeships? And she promised me she would do it, and you've done it. And that is going to be transformative. Because you imagine you're at school for so long, when you go on the UCAS site, it was just what university can you go to. Now it's going to have UCAS for apprenticeships. And the website's incredible. It's linked to all our Skills for Life website. And people will be able to look at these opportunities at the same time. So that will make a huge difference. I think we are doing a lot to try and build an apprenticeship and skills nation. It's one of the reasons why I'm so determined to keep the levy as an apprenticeship levy and not dilute it. The whole purpose of the levy was to transform culture and behaviour. We're having meetings like this that would not have happened 10 years ago. I travelled 843 miles during National Apprenticeship Week, literally from Cornwall to Cambridge back to Harlow, and visiting many places in between. And you met apprentices at the Eden Project doing green skills. I met degree apprenticeships at Owen Mitchell in Cambridge. I met Airbus degree apprenticeships as well, all kinds of different companies, all kinds of different occupations that would have not existed 10 or 15 years ago. It's incredible to see. to see the change. And people, there was a culture in talking about apprenticeships in a way that has never happened before. That doesn't mean there's not a lot more work to do. We're trying to do it with financing, the 2.7 billion, the 110 million that's just been announced, was 60 million last week, 50 million before. We're trying to do a huge amount, the UCAS for careers, the careers work as well, but it's never ending. And when I said there's two parts to your question, I love President Kennedy. I have a picture of him on my wall. And, you know, you go back to the question, it's not always up to government. It's also up to everyone in this field, whether it's employers, stakeholders, charities, schools, to evangelize. This is what Michael Barber says, actually, who I really respect, who was advising the Chancellor of Apprentices. He says you need to create a movement for this, a grassroots movement championing apprenticeships and skills like no other. It's slowly happening. It's a huge cultural change, but I do believe that that we're making progress.
Norman Metz from Ardagh Packaging. We're one of the world's largest manufacturer of beverage containers with glass bottles. So we have some 62 plants right throughout the world. We employ 20,000 people. And here in the UK, we've got 7 plants. We're employing 2,000 people, and we've got 70 apprentices, mainly craft and some IT and some business. And part of the problem that we experience, because we're stuck in the age gap, like somebody else mentioned earlier, our business is not considered to be particularly romantic. We actually find that the premium of talent, our tendency not to look beyond the automotive, the romantic parts of the aerospace industry. To be careful, I was trained in the aerospace industry, so I know just how romantic it is. But what sort of strikes me is the pool is too small. And somehow we need to expand this. We need to expand the perception of craft, skills, vocational training in the mind of the young people, so that they think of this almost intuitively when they're a student. Whereas today, it seems like we intuitively think, how do I get to university? And they're not thinking that these other opportunities. And as you mentioned at the beginning, if you go to Germany, craft and skill set is more engendered into them right away from the school system. And I just wonder how we can actually change this, because there's a lot happening. This skills gap limits to be closed. In one of our plants in Yorkshire, we're taking on 6 apprentices this year. Of course, it's a 4-year cycle for us as well. So it's a considerable investment. But we need to plug this gap. We can't get the skilled people anywhere. So we've resorted for several years to bringing on apprentices. Difficult to bring on more than 10 apprentices in any plant at any time. But somehow we just need the pool to be bigger. We need more people to be. As a company, we've committed $100 million to global STEM training. We've put $50 million already into this, that's for the US. We've started the same in Brazil, the same in South Africa. We've just done Germany, we're coming into the UK shortly with $10 million, just around our local communities to engender the interest into schools, as you mentioned previously. The industry needs to be doing more. But it's simply not enough of us doing it. And it seems to be a challenge, because you don't capture the imagination of the young people. They don't see this as their destiny. You know, they all want to go and be a banker in the city or something else. I don't know.
Okay, so
I'm sure you've heard it before.
yeah, so look, I'm in complete and utter agreement with you, except change has started and it's a long way to go. I told you my first ever speech was about this in the House of Commons. This is exactly what you're talking about. You know, I remember when I was apprenticeship minister last time, and still this time, I've gone around the country. I've met amazing degree apprentices, let alone and other apprentices. They've offered to go to their own school where they used to study and talk about to the kids about apprenticeships. The schools have said no. I mean, incredible. There is change. That is not happening as much as before. We have got what we talked about with UCAS now, UCAS for apprenticeships. So we've got this big thing called the Apprenticeship Skills Knowledge Network, going around to thousands of schools all over the country, especially in disadvantaged areas, doing apprenticeship fairs in everything from the traditional crafts and trades to apprenticeships in aerospace, legal, whatever it might be. And we've got a new Skills for Life big advert campaign that we've been working on for a year. And it's a really good campaign. I know it is good, not because I say so, because wherever I go, I show it to young apprentices without any comment saying, what do you think of this? And at least 8 out of 10 say it's really inspirational. We've merged everything into sort of one Skills for Life, Skills for Careers website that's easy for people to search apprenticeship. Still a lot more work to do on it. And we had a culture in this country, which, as I say, which I thought was the wrong one, which was university, university, university. Now, I was only the second person in my family to go to university. My father came here as an immigrant. He worked day and night to send me to one, but they weren't the apprenticeships on offer as they are today. There was some. I would love to have gone and worked in a company because I'm a visual person more than a, academic person. But that changes now. There are incredible opportunities. We have National Apprenticeship Week, more people signing up apprentices, more people getting involved than ever before. So what I would say to you, there's massive amount of work to do on this, but the glass is half full, not half empty, and change is coming. We've started, so we're not yet at a tipping point, but we're I wouldn't say close, but we're getting there.
Maybe that's the challenge, Robert, to be the minister that makes apprenticeship sexy, romantic, sexy, whatever the balance you want.
Yeah.
Which is a nice segue to a question we had here online from James from DXC Technology. We're an IT services multinational, and we work closely with government to try and ensure the skills of the future are being prepared. The entire industry is struggling to find enough of the talent pipeline, with companies typically carrying 10% of their FTE as vacancies. Do you have any views on how DFE, DWP, and DSIC can work more collaboratively to get as many people interested in tech as possible?
So I think that's very important, and it's a very fair challenge. And we're doing everything we can to try and do that. The Prime Minister is very interested in this. There are cross-government meetings that I attend to where we discuss all these kind of things on a regular basis. We're trying to do a lot of work on careers. We're looking at our big industries like shipbuilding and nuclear, as well as tech. So we've tried to introduce the qualifications that people can do in all the different areas. So we're doing everything we can, and we are working collaboratively across government.
I have one actually from Gatsby. I don't know if they're in the room, but would you like to answer?
I don't know what they want to.
About institutes of technology, but you can ask any other question.
No, go for institutes of technology.
So what role can institutes of technology play in ensuring the current and future generations of workers have the skills, including digital skills, to thrive in the future?
So I love this question because I just think these are going to be, as I mentioned to you previously, revolutionary. Someone the other day saying, we want you to, why don't you get more skills like Oxbridge? I said, actually, why don't we get more skills like Loughborough College? Because I think we just kind of have this obsession with Oxbridge. Wonderful, absolutely incredible places, very proud of them. But I want other places of excellence, not everyone just to be focused on a certain quarter of universities. And the Institute of Technology, what they are, why they're revolutionary is because they are collaborations between further education colleges in a particular region, collaborations with local business, sometimes big business, and the university. And they get together to form the Institute of Technology. We have one in my area, Southeast Institute of Technology, and Harlow College, FE College is a leading player in it. And what they are doing is they are teaching higher technical qualifications designed by employers. They're teaching degree apprenticeships. There are some T levels at the moment, but it's predominantly the higher levels, level 4 and upwards. Why is that revolutionary? Because they are employer-led, and because business involvement, HE and FE, many people will go there instead to those institutes instead of necessarily going to university. And they're great ladders for the disadvantaged as well. And I've seen that when I've visited institutes of technology around the country. So I think I've described five big challenges to the traditional university system. And one is what I call the disrupt universities, which are Institute of Technology and universities like Dyson, where they have a university on campus by the factory. And the other challenge is, of course, the lifelong learning entitlement, because people won't necessarily go to universities for 3 years. Our reforms with the OFS in terms of restricting recruitment for poor quality courses where there's poor outcomes, the AI challenge and the degree apprenticeship challenge, because more and more students will be doing degree apprenticeships and less will be doing well, not necessarily less and less, but you'll have more and more doing degree apprenticeships. That will change the model of some of our universities. So our universities, the traditional model of universities, are going to face a fair few challenges in the years ahead.
Okay, and what you obviously have talked about all the things that the department is doing across the country very well, and all the various initiatives. What would you say are the gaps, either from a sectoral standpoint or geographically across the country, where there is more to do?
Yeah. So by the way, I'm not far from complacent. We've got a long way to go. And to quote Kennedy again, on my wall, this picture, he says, when he would put man on the moon, we do these things not because they're easy, but because they're hard. It's the most magnificent speech you'll ever see if you look it up on the internet. And we're doing these things not because they're easy, but because they're hard. There are massive reforms. What we've done with the T levels, the apprenticeship levy, the apprenticeship standards, the careers changes that's gone on over the past few years. There are problems. Absolutely, there are cold spots in certain areas of the country where you don't get the skills that you need for that local employers needs. There's cold spots. We need to do a lot of work on that. We want to increase the number of starts for what are difficult apprenticeship standards. Want to increase the achievement rate. We need to make sure that all our 21 IoTs are successful and do what I've tried to set out to you today. We want more people to do degree apprenticeships. We need to still transform careers advice, as you rightly said. So there's a lot of work to do.
Last round, here with the back.
Hi, Jason Kelly from the Packaging Manufacturing Association. So kind of linked to that, how do we direct the stream of apprentices and apprenticeships towards what we get back to what we point about what's romantic or not? I guess if there's a limited supply of apprentices, then they're going to be gravitating towards a more romantic parts, AI. And some of the traditional skills like engineering, electrical engineering, that are members of people. Sideways.
So I don't think that will necessarily be the case, because if you have the right careers advice, everybody has a different calling in life, and not everyone wants to go and do cybersecurity and AI. And I've met the most incredible young engineering apprentices, just the most aspirational, hardworking people, often from disadvantaged backgrounds. And there's plenty of people who want to do that. That doesn't mean there's enough of them. And it goes back to, it's fascinating that so many of you have pointed to this issue about careers and the culture, but that goes down to careers and showing people all the different choices and options that there are. But believe me, I'm as happy if someone does a plumbing apprentice as I am if they're doing a level 7 or level 6 legal apprenticeship, degree apprenticeship in legal. I just want people to do apprenticeships. I want the apprenticeship standard to be high quality and tough, so that we have the best vocational qualifications in the world that are recognized by you guys, businesses. But I want as many people to do apprenticeships as possible.
One of the issues is that the supply isn't there. Our members are reporting a training apprentices because
so they're training the apprentices, they're leaving the firms to go where?
The other firms.
Right. Okay. So that will happen in any. So obviously, I don't want that to happen. The surveys show that most apprentices are loyal to the companies that have employed them. I'd be interested to see the reasons for that. But you could. A lot of people go into firms and then get trained up whether they're doing an apprenticeship or not and then leave. So I don't think this is unique to apprentices. But obviously, if it's a trend, then we need to look at it and understand: is there something wrong with the qualification? Is there something wrong with the company? Who knows? But we need to really analyse that carefully.
Right to the back. Last one.
Hi, I'm going from EPF Cards, also an employer, owner. We're trying to find out how to tap into that talent pool. But it seems that not only do that on a regional level, we're trying to look at how to do that on a national level. Is there a way that we can do that and get in touch with schools and colleges, do a national contact, or do we have to do that on the YouTube?
No, we can put you in touch with the relevant officials at the Department for Education and engage with them. And you next year, if you wanted to, might get involved in National Apprenticeship Week or T-Level Thursday, and there are lots and lots of events. I'd be delighted for you to be involved. So if you contact us through that, I will make sure that officials from the Department Department for Education, sorry, engage with you. But thank you.
Well, that, I think I'll abuse my position as chair to ask one last
Of course.
quick fire question, Robert, if I may. We have a number of people from embassies in the room. You mentioned Germany earlier. I don't believe you have to be the first, but do it best. So if there is something from another country that you would implement here, why? What is it?
Well, I went to Germany as I described. I went to I've been to Switzerland to see the vocational system, and I had discussions at the Council of Europe with the Swiss senior people from the Swiss Education Department. So I think that they have the culture, these countries, of they don't have these problems that you're talking about. They don't, because it's been, that story I told you about the 14-year-old, is absolutely it's the culture. And so I just want to learn how we do that. And you have a lot of people who, but when you, in your countries, when you do vocational learning, it is seen as something incredibly prestigious. I go back to this Oxford obsession and Loughborough College example. I want to have a system whereby if you have a dinner party, someone says they've been to Oxbridge, everyone says, okay, that's nice, well done. And then somebody says, I'm doing a apprenticeship in packaging, or I'm doing an apprenticeship in legal, and everyone goes, oh my god, well done, how are you doing that? Are you doing it at the Institute of Technology? How incredible. And that's when we really will have changed, when people react to people who are doing vocational and technical education, and the same they react when people go to the top universities. Because I believe that everyone who does an apprenticeship is incredibly hard, it's an incredible achievement, it's aspirational, and it gets you up on that ladder of opportunities that I've described.
Well, that sounds pretty visionary and a roadmap to me, Robert. So we might see you out on the stump a little bit in the months.
Thank you.
With that, I think in the traditional way, can we give Robert a round of applause, please?